I'm just going to talk you through the 10ENG 1.9 internal, just to recap anything that you might have missed over the last couple of lessons. So we are doing a internal, which is an NCA level 1 worth 4 credits. So this can go towards your credits next year. It is called Using Information Literacy to Form Conclusions, and the basis of it is that it is a research internal where you research a particular topic, you use research skills, which are what information literacy skills are, and then you form conclusions. So forming conclusions means things like having an opinion, coming up with possible solutions, thinking about resolutions, that sort of stuff. So that is the basis of how it works. So this is what we're working on for the remainder of the term, and then ultimately it will be due at the beginning of term 4 in week 2 on the Tuesday. So you will complete the research task as it is set out in this booklet and as it is set out in the assignments on Teams, and then you will answer some questions, kind of like a long answer, and then you will produce a report using your responses from that. So it's very scaffolded. It should be straightforward to just go step by step into the process. So the beginning part of this is to pick your topic. The best possible topics are those that are an issue, so you could have more than one side to it, and there might be a fair bit of research on it. Ideally, you have something where you've looked at maybe a specific country, so instead of just looking at child poverty, you've looked at child poverty in New Zealand, for example, so that you've got something a little bit more specific. What we're after are topics that are valid and current, so not looking back at historical issues like historical wars, but instead looking at current issues facing our current world that might impact our future world. We also want topics that are not resolved. So, for example, last year a lot of students used the euthanasia and the cannabis referendums for their research, which is totally fine. But this year, we've had those referendums, we've got the laws passed, and so it's not actually an issue that needs to be debated anymore because it's already been resolved or sorted. So the first thing is to pick your topics. We've done some brainstorms on these ones already, and these are a couple of different areas that you could think about. So our country, other countries, youth today, that sort of thing. So lots of different ones that you could consider. When you've done that, you should have put in your topic in the assignment, and that involves filling out just that little bit there in the pinky sort of orange colour. So throughout this internal, you will fill out the pinky orange bits of the internal as well. And then you've put in things that you might already know or need to know. It's just like an early brainstorm. This isn't super intense or detailed, just some bullet points. What do you know? What do you need to know as part of your research into that topic? And then you use these as your main questions to guide your different research process. So you find 2 sources that answer each of these questions or help provide you with information to answer each of these questions. So ultimately, you will have 6 sources. And what we're after is that you choose a range of sources so that we don't come across, the fact that you've only gone on to NZ Herald or NZ Herald and stuff and found 6 articles. We want to try to see you do things like look at podcasts, radio segments, interviews, documentaries, YouTube clips, infographics, newspapers, magazines, websites, research articles. Really use a range of research tools that are available to you. Obviously, being at home, a lot of it's going to be done online, but you can still access quite a range of those things. And I've gone through previously, but if you go through the school website, go on library, and then you go to the library's website, you'll find the database. I'm a big fan of the EPIC database. You might have used it in social studies. That's a great resource, and you'll be able to find lots of different things there that you wouldn't find from a straight Google search. So you use these 3 questions as the basis for your internal. And then when you've found sources that help to answer it, so for example, a newspaper article and a website that help to answer the first question, you're going to record information from those sites or from those resources or sources, and then you're going to evaluate how reliable they are and how valid they are. So to do that, we use something called the CRAP test, which we'll do in another lesson, but this runs through questions that you can ask yourself to ensure that it is a reliable source. It doesn't have to be a reliable source, but you need to figure out what parts of it are reliable and then what parts are less useful or less reliable for your research. This is the part that requires your information literacy skills. So that's the first part of the criteria. So what you do for that, I'll go through this in a lot more detail in another video, is you will record notes about the source. So it's got here things like the author, title of publication, the URL, as much detail as you can give or find. You might find that you can't actually find the author, so you'll make a note of that. Then you want to put it here, key notes, bullet points, full sentences, summaries of the information. Really important that you do summaries rather than just copying and pasting, because if you just copy and paste, you're not using your information literacy skills, which is your ability to summarize information and pick key information. And also that's plagiarism. So that's just stealing someone else's idea, and we don't want to do that. All right, so you fill that out, then you do little bullet point notes and full sentences. So you might comment on the currency of it, the reliability, authority, and purpose or point of view of that resource. Okay, so you do that to the best of your abilities, and we will do future lessons on how to do that. So you obviously do that again with another source that answers question 1. Question 2, you find 2 sources, so that's source 3 and source 4. Then question 3 is source 5 and source 6. So question 3, for example, is about like the future and possible solutions and any issues and things like that. So you would find 2 sources that help to inform you on that, and then you fill out these 2. So that is the information literacy side of the assessment. Then we've got to organize your information. So this is the bit that helps you form conclusions. So that is the other part of the criteria. So you have to do the information literacy and you have to form conclusions, but how well you form conclusions determines whether you get an achieved, a merit, or an excellence. So you will answer these questions and as detailed as you can, little paragraphs, full sentences. You can do bullet points because ultimately you'll write a report from this, but best practice to make your life easier in the future is to write paragraphs on them now. So you'll look at the history or context and kind of summarize and reflect on it, the causes of your issue, the situation right now, anything that's currently going on, anything important. So this is where you can really unpack what you've learned and what you've thought about it. So this is a really good opportunity to show your understanding and what it's made you think about. Differing opinions, so different attitudes towards it. What might happen next? Is it simple or straightforward? What are some of the issues that might arise when that happens? And then you write a little write-up or a small report on that. So it is between 1 and 2 pages of size 12 font. So it's not going to be long. It's, 2 pages would be, 800 words. It depends on the size of the font and the margins, but it's not going to be huge, all right? So you basically have 5 paragraphs. You just take what you've written above, you keep developing it and keep reflecting on it. You want to try add in interesting vocabulary and language to sort of reflect your understanding, and you want to proofread it to make sure it makes sense. So all of these aspects are a part of this internal, and they all contribute to the grade that you're going to get at the end. So each part is important to put your full effort and attention into. So that is a summary of the internal. Hopefully that helps if you are feeling a little bit stuck.